It's Monday, February the 2nd. Do you know what time it is? It's Al Sharpton's time. And for these next 3 hours, it's time to put aside all pretenses, deception, denial, or fronting. Time has come to keep it real on Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton. A very good afternoon to you all across the country. Good morning to our West Coast listeners. Welcome to our friends that are listening on Sirius XM, Channel 126, The Urban View, or you that are following us on live stream at nationalactionnetwork.net. Jay got you hooked up. You can see me and you can message me at the www.nationalactionnetwork.net. And we got a lot to talk about today. First of all, let me thank all of you for tuning in. 20th year of the show and the second day of Black History Month, 2026. And going to talk about a lot of the issues, but I really want people to call in and tell me, since there's such an aggressive, a frontal move to eliminate and erase Black history, what are the important things in Black history? Could be a movement, could be a invention, could be a cultural piece. What important part of Black history do you think is important for you or I to teach our children? I know we should teach them all, but I'm going to say I want you to give me the important part, because some things tell our story in ways that have been marginalized or that's being eliminated. And all of it they're trying to eliminate now. Look at Florida. I mean, they're trying to, by law, take it out of the schools. I said on Politics Nation over the weekend that they took a crowbar and took down the slaves on the president's house in Philadelphia. Crowbar, they had a picture of the enslaved there. Took it down. This is where Trump and them were going to Philadelphia to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the country, 1776 in Philly. But they don't want to remind the world or deal with themselves that we were enslaved in 1776. In fact, we had been enslaved since 1619. And that's what was recorded. It might have been before that. So I want in Black History Month, this is February the 2nd, 100th anniversary of Black History Month. And I want you to tell me, well, Reverend Al, I want my kids to know about Tuskegee Airmen. Well, Reverend Al, I want them to know about the Harlem Renaissance. Well, Reverend Al, I want them to know about the abolitionists. Well, I want them to know the speech of Frederick Douglass, Washington Slave. Whatever it is, let's communicate that today, because there is aggressive movements against us. But guess what? It always was. I'm tired of you crybaby activists. Oh, it's so hard. Oh, ain't nobody on our side. Oh, the Democrats ain't doing nothing. Oh, nobody ever did nothing for us. We got up and did it for ourselves. So when people call me complaining about they didn't do this, they didn't do that, we get ready to have Nan's 35th year convention. I'm going to give out some crybaby awards. Harriet Tubman and them didn't cry. They built underground railroads. Frederick Douglass didn't cry, went to the White House and confronted Lincoln. Booker T. Washington cried, Cassius Bucket down built Tuskegee Institute. George Washington Carver came there and made a peanut that revolutionized agriculture. That's whose blood we got in our veins. Yes, we should complain. Yes, we should confront, but we should work while we're complaining. You got to let them know we are not depending on y'all. We're going to expose y'all. We're going to let y'all know we ain't stupid. But we ain't sitting around waiting on you to have pity on us. Because some of them have no pity in them. If they will deal with their own in such abusive ways, what makes you think they're going to show mercy on you? So let's talk about a lot to talk about today. Jay hook up Reverend Bird. He's sitting over there thinking he's chilling. Ain't no chilling today. You are going to work, Reverend Bird. This bird going to fly today. Let's talk about what is going on. First of all, the dumping of the 3.5 million new documents on the Epstein case. Many of y'all know I grew up in Brooklyn and Queens, New York. When I got a certain age, I was old enough I could go to Manhattan with some of my schoolmates. And one of the things that we would learn or see, then we had to learn what it was guys that would stand on the corners in Times Square. We take the train from Brooklyn, stand on the corner, and see guys with these cards on a card table. And tourists be surrounding them. And it was the 5-card Monte game, 3-card Monte game. Where they would play a game, put a $20 bill on the card, tell the tourists to guess the card it was under. They guessed the wrong card all the time. They lose their $20. They are playing the 3-card Monte game on the American public. We throwing out all these documents, then have to admit, well, we still got some, but they going to trial. Going to what trial? You're saving them for what trial? I thought that Maxwell was in jail. I thought Epstein had been tried and, according to y'all, hung himself in jail. So what trial y'all got coming? And how do you deduct all the names that are questionable, but even leave some of the victims' pictures and all? And now in the context of that, they got ICE going crazy all over the country. Judges making them return the 5-year-old kids, your 5-year-old child, to Minneapolis. Same time you got ICE doing all this stuff, you got FBI going 6 years later up in Fulton County, Georgia, taking out voter rolls. Told the authorities, I had the chairman of the commission on Politics Nation Saturday night, told the authorities there that somebody may be getting arrested tomorrow, and then they come in and just took all of the voter things from before, still trying to act like somebody stole the election. Oh, yeah, Rev Mal, it's a distraction. Well, it's also a plan. They want to hit two things at one time. They want to have the distraction from the Epstein file, in my belief, and they want to start casting doubt and some kind of cases, if they can build them, going into the midterm elections this year, because all the polls say that the Congress is going to flip and maybe the Senate, which means Hakeem Jeffries would be the Speaker of the House. So a lot is happening, and I want you to talk to me about it. We're going to talk about Black History Month, which you think is important. We're going to talk about the ICE and what is going on in terms of, we understand now ICE is going into Ohio after the Haitian community. So it's expanding. We are also hearing that Speaker Johnson says he has the vote to pass this 2-week extension on the partial government shutdown. The question going to be when it comes back, how they going to deal with ICE. And there's going to be a real reckoning on how we deal with the question of how this president is going to look at the fact that even independent voters and some Republican voters have said that enough is enough. We can't stay here with this. In a district in Texas that Trump won by 17%, a Democrat won the state Senate seat over the weekend by 11%. 17% Trump won by. Flipped to 11% that this state senator won by. That's a, 28% shift. They hear footsteps coming. That's why they're trying to raid and do all kinds of stuff. Got ICE on overtime, grab Don Lemon, all kind of stuff. But we need to melt that ice. Let's talk about it. It is Exhale Monday. I'm sorry, Hot Button Monday. I do Exhale Friday. It is Hot Button Monday. 1-877-532-5797. 1-877-532-5797. And of course, I want to hear what you got to say. Reverend Bird, what you got to say? Oh, you ain't got no mic? They've been trying to shut you up a long time, Reverend. Jay done shut you down. We'll be right back after this. Do you know what time it is? It's Al Sharpton time. It's time to put aside all pretenses, deception, denial, or fronting. The time has come to keep it real on Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton. You need to keep it real with Reverend Al Sharpton right here on Uber TV. Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're back. 1-877-532-5797. 1-877-532-5797. Let's go back to the phone. Attorney Jennifer Jones-Austin is... You know, every day, Monday through Friday, I do 3 hours a day on Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton. I do 1 hour on Sunday mornings with Sunday Morning with Reverend Al Sharpton. And I'm live on radio and TV with the Saturday Action Rally. 7 days a week, I talk to our people, hear from them, to call in. I'm sick and tired of people talking for people that they don't talk to. So go on www.nationalactionnetwork.net. Listen to my show, call in, express your opinion. You don't have to agree with me. But let's start talking to each other rather than about each other and lecturing at each other. Let's keep it real with Sharpton.
Happy 20th anniversary to Reverend Al Sharpton on 20 years of Keeping It Real. 2 decades of truth-telling, fearless advocacy, and keeping the people informed and empowered. Thank you for always speaking power to justice and standing firm for what's right. Here's to 20 years of impact and many more to come.
I had a thought this morning that I wanted to share with you about mentorship. I am able to do a lot of what I do because I had great mentors, but there are correct ways and incorrect ways to mentor people, in my opinion. I was mentored as a boy preacher by Bishop F.D. Washington, one of the great Pentecostal preachers of his time. Then Reverend William Jones, who became my pastor after Bishop Washington died, who was unquestionably in the top 5 black church ministers, theologians. Reverend Jesse Jackson, who I started my activism under his leadership, he and Reverend Jones. And I learned politics directly as a youth director from Shirley Chisholm. So even though I didn't finish college, I had the most unique education in the world from being exposed to giants. But the one thing I learned is as I grew older and people started coming younger than me and wanted me to teach and mentor them, the magic of the mentors I had is they did not want me to be their clone. They wanted me to learn things from them and use my own gifts and talents in my own unique way and let me do things on my own, because they knew that if I flopped in some things, it would teach me for the other things. They'll come and help me once I was down, but they were not going to have me avoid being down. And they were not going to impose themselves on me. Why am I saying that? Because too many mentors want clones, and too many mentees want their mentors to put them on a pedestal. Oh, so-and-so didn't do this for me. Oh, so-and-so didn't open doors for me. If they got to open doors for you, it may mean that they knew you weren't ready to go through those doors. Their job is to prepare you. Your job is to develop your own skills, your own unique ways. And I don't care if it's my daughters, who both have come into their own, or anyone else. I'm not a talent agent. I did not form National Action Network to give people their step up. I formed it to fight for justice for everybody. If talented people get in, it's my job to invest and give them a platform. It's their job to get on the platform and perform and show their ability. Sitting with me today in the office as I talk about it is one of my mentees, Reverend Stephen Marshall. Now, Stephen, you just came around us when you were how old?
11 years old.
11 years old. You just turned 40 and now you're called to the ministry?
Yes, sir.
And what do you do in National Action Network?
I formulate policies, lead in various regions, but most importantly, I senior advisor you on all things from social justice strategies, politics, intergovernmental affairs, you name it, community organizing, all of that stuff.
And I could go through scores of others. My daughter started Huddle. They got Huddles now, which is for young people to meet once a week all over the country. I just saw the video from the Las Vegas National Action Network chapter. Now, when you decided to preach, did I ever tell you to become a preacher?
Not one time.
Who called you to preach?
The Lord.
All right. And did I say go to this school or that school?
No, sir.
Did I open this door, that door? Did I tell you be ready when the doors open?
Always be ready and prepared.
And that's what I'm saying. Get you some young people than you that you can help along the way. But don't be their talent agent. Their talent must speak for themselves. And anybody that grumbles with you about so-and-so didn't do something for them, maybe it's because they didn't feel you were ready, or that they felt if they did it, you wouldn't do it on your own. But we all don't live forever. I want the next generation to speak of me, of National Action Network, and others, the way I speak of Reverend Jones and Bishop Washington and Shirley Chisholm and Reverend Jackson. But I just don't want young people to feel that somebody ought to give them the reins of leadership or give them the reins of business or whatever it is you're in. You need to learn from their journey, get the pearls of wisdom from them, but don't have them do for you, because then it means you can't do it for yourself.
I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. Just break. I believe that.
Good morning, everybody. I hope the coffee has kicked in by now. I want to start by thanking your leader, the Reverend Al Sharpton, and everyone at the National Action Network for 35 years of standing up for civil rights and opportunity for everyone.
And I couldn't be more grateful for the way that you have blessed the lives of so many, including mine.
As we look today on King Day, let us not forget that we had to struggle to even have this day. They did not wake up one morning and say, let's give a federal holiday to Martin Luther King. People petitioned, people marched. Let us remember now, as we bring our children and grandchildren up the Potomac, that they can see the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial, the Jefferson Memorial, and one memorial that never served as president, but changed this country more than any other American, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
This was an amazing MLK breakfast.
It is truly an honor, and more importantly, this is an important day for us.
I feel incredibly lucky and honored to be in this room on this day, celebrating Dr. King's legacy of civil rights, especially in the moment that we're facing on a national level. It feels like warmth and home being in this room.
So I'm encouraged by today. I'm encouraged that we're getting out, we're protesting, but more needs to be done. We need to lean in.
And let's keep fighting because the job is not done here. And I just feel so honored to get this award. It's not about getting an award, it's about doing the work. And let's keep up with the work.
Rev, you know you were right there
From the beginning.
with the stuff that
Yep.
was going on in Brooklyn at that time, at Howard Beach. You were right there.
He had in one of the early movies, he had my name. Then he put me in Malcolm, and I wasn't even old enough to know Malcolm. So we've been through it all.
For those who see Malcolm X, it's 3 hours. But fast forward to the scene with yourself,
Yep.
Bobby Seale.
Right. Bobby Seale, Denzel, and me.
Yeah.
Denzel was on the set.
Now let me ask a question.
Yep.
What was your weight on that scene?
I brought it about 270. I was bigger then.
Yeah.
Still had the hair.
And you had the head
I
on.
am your host.
Denzel, yourself, and Bobby Seale.
And with that 1877.
And also, there was no cut. We went like
532 579 71877 532 5797 Twitter.com The Rev Al, or go to the message page and send me a message and we read it over the air. Evangelist Ramsey's on the message page saying, welcome, grace and peace, everyone. Please stay warm and safe. Continue to be blessed and highly favored of the Lord. Sit back, relax, and get ready to keep it real with no other than the real Reverend Sharpton on Keeping It Real. Don't just talk about it. All right, Evangelist Ramsey. And she's right, it's cold around the country. Parts of the country is colder than they are accustomed to, so don't fight the cold. You won't win. I can tell you that for sure. Georgia Daniel is on the message board saying, good afternoon, Reverend Sharpton. Unconfused, the ball of confusion in the Trump's lies and deception. Keeping it real in Toledo, Ohio. I'm going to talk about Ohio in a minute because we understand that ICE, I call ICE Vice, is on their way into Ohio after dealing with what they did in Minneapolis. And we're on it. Let me say by way of announcements before I get too far ahead of myself that don't forget Politics Nation with Al Sharpton live at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Saturdays and Sundays, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Saturdays and Sundays. We had the House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries on this weekend. We had Secretary of State of Minnesota. We had Senator Rochester from Delaware, a black woman, and we had she's the first black woman, I think the first black U.S. senator from Delaware. We had the congresswoman who succeeded in John Lewis's seat on, talking about black history. She and talking about the raid in Fulton County, the FBI. Congresswoman Nakima Williams. I don't play with booking the right guests. I want people that's right involved in what's going on. So don't miss any Saturday or Sunday watching Politics Nation with Al Sharpton live at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on MSNBC. And the Saturday Action Rally, we ended 19 years at the 145th location on Saturday. Had a great rally, good memories. And we're moving on. We've opened up administrative offices temporarily at the Harlem Commonwealth Council. And we are starting this Saturday for Black History Month. Saturday Action Rally will be live at the historic Mother AME Zion Church in Harlem, 137th Street between Lenox and 7th Avenue, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. You can watch it live on Impact Television and or nationalactionnetwork.net and or the whole question of our people. We're going to deal with Black History Month. We'll be there all month and maybe 5 weeks. And then we're moving into our new headquarters. And let me bring in the pastor of Mother AME Zion Mother AME Zion Church, and he is also the COO, Chief Operating Officer here at National Action Network. Wears two hats, COO Chief here, as well as the pastor of this historic church. And they finally, Jay, he's off the punishment he can have on Mike now. All right, Jay's in charge. He was on punishment. But she said let him out the doghouse. All right. Reverend Dr. Malcolm Bird. Malcolm Bird, how you doing today?
Doing wonderful, Rev. Doing wonderful. And I'm so glad to be on your program today. And let me first say congratulations on 20 years. 20 years of keeping it real with Reverend Al Sharpton. To last 20 years over the airwaves is literally Black history in its own right. And I wasn't in the studio last week when you commemorated it, but I just want to say to you, congratulations on a job well done. We very much appreciate what you do for us each and every day.
And we appreciate you hosting and having National Action Network Saturday Action Rally move into your church, historic church, for Black History Month, and as we wait on the finishing touches of our new headquarters that I'm yet to reveal in public, but you know because you've been working closely in the negotiations. Tell us, though, a little about Black history of the church.
Well, Mother AME Zion is the oldest Black institution in New York State with origins that go back to 1774, literally 2 years before this country was established, and formally organized in 1796. Almost from our inception, we have been very intentional about liberation for marginalized people. Truth be told, Reverend Sharpton, Mother AME Zion was actually founded as a civil rights, as an anti-slavery institution masquerading as a church. We knew that we were focused on liberating our brothers and sisters from slavery, and the only way to do that without detection was to mask ourselves in religiosity as a church. So whereas there'd be a group that would be worshiping up front when white authorities came by, but in the back there was a whole nother conversation in the back of that room where they worshiped as to where the safe houses were in New York City where individuals could pass through. So Mother AME Zion is literally an anti-slavery institution that masqueraded itself as a church. So if you know our history, it's to be no surprise why we were the Grand Depot of the Underground Railroad through New York City. why
right through your building, Sojourner Truth.
That's right.
And then Frederick Douglass spoke at your church.
That's right. And he was married there as well in 1838.
And same church, same building we'll be in.
Not that building. We've been in 5 different buildings.
Okay, but that church under Mother Amy's. Paul Robeson was a member of the church.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, one of his brothers
was pastor
of the church.
Yep.
So we're going on some sacred ground as we continue this going forward. Let's take a break and get ready. Let some of our people, our callers, call in. I want people to talk about what they think is important to teach on Black History Month 2026, 100th anniversary of Black History Month, as well as what they think about what's going on in this country. Evangelist Ramsey tell me, don't forget, not only are we going to be at Saturdays at 137th and 7th and Lenox for the Action Rally, Huddle will be at 361 West 125th Street at 6 p.m. today. That's that Harlem Commonwealth Council where we moved to. For our administrative office, we'll be operating out of that. Huddle will be at 361 West 125th Street at the administrative offices that we've set up temporarily. Thank you, Evangelist Ramsey. See, they on it. They know what to do. We'll be right back, keeping it real. Sharpton, right after this.
Today, an Illinois judge sentenced the former sheriff's deputy responsible for the 2024 murder of Sonya Massey to 20 years in prison. While this conviction represents accountability, I believe nothing short of a life sentence could truly match the life that was taken. Sonya Massey was in crisis and deserved care, not violence. In 20 years, this individual may walk free, but Sonya will never return to her family, never live out her future, never get another chance. National Action Network stood with her loved ones and community then, and we will continue to stand with them now. We must fight to ensure no other family suffers such a horrific loss and demand real reforms, including stronger standards and background checks in law enforcement hiring. This is the work NAN has carried forward for 35 years, standing in the tradition of Dr. King, fighting for one standard of justice and refusing to be silent in the face of police violence and inequality. Our mission remains clear: to protect our communities, demand accountability, and ensure equal justice under the law. Justice must be more than a moment. It must be a movement.
Many people cannot focus because they have not really come to terms with their calling and life purpose. In order to focus, you must also be clear on what you're focusing on. So if you're not clear on your purpose, if you're not clear on your life's calling, then focus on seeking that. Because if you just read the ways and roads you traveled that you didn't even choose, that were sort of just laid out for you by God, in that it's telling you, speaking to you about what your purpose is and what you were born to do and be. I learned the things that I didn't plan had to be planned by God, and God's plan was directed toward God's purpose in my life. And I focus on that. Not focus on what others do, not focus on how well they're doing or bad they're doing, but focus on whether I'm in line and aligned with what I'm supposed to be about. And in order to move straight ahead, you have to be focused on the path you're running on.
Good morning, everybody. I hope the coffee has kicked in by now. I want to start by thanking your leader, the Reverend Al Sharpton, and everyone at the National Action Network for 35 years of standing up for civil rights and opportunity for everyone. You reminded us that change doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen, as long as we don't give away our power. I also want to recognize my friends, Martin Luther King III and Andrea Waters King, who continue to be such an important part of this movement. Finally, I want to congratulate another great friend, Eric Holder, on this well-deserved honor. Eric was obviously an outstanding Attorney General, and after the career he's had, he could have easily decided to ride off into the sunset. Sometimes I think that his wife Sharon wishes he had, but that's not who Eric is. Instead, over the last decade, he's built the National Democratic Redistricting Committee into a leading force in the fight against gerrymandering. And thanks to them, we've been able to push back some of the worst attempts to undermine our elections. It speaks to Eric's love of country, but also his recognition of how important this work is. He understands that our democracy isn't self-executing. We have to fight for it each and every day. And that's going to be especially true as we head into the midterms later this year. So, thanks to Eric and his team for doing everything they can to put our elections on a level playing field. And thanks to all of you for helping people recognize their own power and put it to good use. Take care, everybody, and God bless.
So who is Al Sharpton anyway? Who is this 33-year-old preacher without a church?
A number of black New Yorkers as well. He is little more than a pudgy exhibitionist who can be counted on to show up, bullhorn in hand, at every racial incident.
I often quote Mark Twain saying, "The two most important moments in life is the moment you are born and the moment you find out why you were born." I had a very troubling conversation the other day that prompted me to do this little video. Young man that I've known a while came to me and he was crushed. I mean, really crushed, because people were criticizing his work. He's in the ministry, but he's also an actor. And he said he couldn't understand why people were jumping all over, criticizing him, trying to find scandalous and derogatory things about him. And I told him, I said, you know, you very young. You don't know the road I've traveled. They called me everything but a child of God.
A blabbermouth, a loudmouth, too flamboyant, an agitator, a racist,
and I had to learn.
Yeah, right.
I was not defined by how others saw me. I was defined by how I saw myself and whether I was being true to myself. Some of you watching this don't like me. And it doesn't matter as long as I know what I'm doing and I like me for being real. So I'm doing this video to say to you, whoever you are and whatever you do, you may not be in ministry or social justice, none of this stuff, but don't live your life worried about opposition or people that don't like you. You can turn that around. Use me as an example. The same people that called me a scam artist, a con artist, a sellout, or racial hustler and all, I kept going. And the people I respected started respecting. I'm your host. And publicly embracing my Reverend work. Al Sharpton, and we're back.
King, the widow of Dr. Martin Luther King.
1-877-532-5797. And of course, our live stream, you can go on the message board at www.nationalactionnetwork.net and put a message up. Brenda Archer's on saying, blessings and love, President Barack Obama, grace and peace. She was watching a video of President Obama's message to us just a week and a half ago at our Martin Luther King breakfast in Washington. Let me say, Lottie Dottie and everybody's getting ready to come to National Action Network's convention. I checked the numbers. We are well over 3,000 people already registered. It's all free, and I haven't even announced the speakers yet. I will say, since a lot of you watched the Saturday Action Rally, that I did leak it out Saturday. Don Lemon is going to be on the media panel. But there are going to be a lot of our experts, top political leaders. That's what we do, and we do it free. We ask people to register even though they don't have to pay so that we know the size of the ballrooms to order. And so when we get there, April the 8th through the 11th, and run out of room, we only go by the list. And I, take the opinion, Reverend Bird, that if people too lazy to go online and register at www.nationalactionnetwork.net or call right now, they're in the temporary office, and same phone number, 1-877-626-4651. If they're too lazy to call in or go online and register, I don't know why they stopped me in the hall saying, Reverend Martin can't get in. And I say, are you on the list? Well, I come all the time, but we had to go by organized lists. We got people come from all over the world. So, well, I'm not supposed to say, but even people, we have a contingent come from London, contingent coming from 2 of our African nations. They didn't come here to stand in the hall. They registered. And I think that's important.
It's very important, Reverend, and I would say to all of your listeners and all persons who are interested in coming to the NAN convention, just to let you know, this is one that's not to be missed. But as Reverend Sharpton has already indicated, we already have over 3,000 registrants for an April convention, and it's today, February 2nd. And so if you plan on coming to the NAN convention, we most certainly want you in the number. We want you in the space. It's not to be missed. Please go on right now and register to secure your space. The convention is free. All you have to do is go on and register. Don't wait until tomorrow. Register today. 3,000 people have already registered for the convention, and we need to count your name in.
All right, let's go to the phones. Let's start with Tyrone in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Tyrone, you're keeping it real hot button Monday, Black History Month with Reverend Al Sharpton.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you for calling.
Blessed and joyous New Year and blessed joyous Black Month. First time talking to you this year, so very quickly, regards to Dominique, Ashley, your grandson, and hope you all are doing it well as well. So God bless you. Good to be in your presence. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
My condolences real quick, if I may, locally here. Two pioneering giants, New Pitts Mortuary, Michelle Pitts, her husband, Nate Luckett of the gospel singing group, the Gospel Luckett Brothers.
Okay.
She will be eulogizing her husband in the upcoming days there. So to both of those individuals and the Pitts and the Luckett family, thank you for the things you've done for the Milwaukee community, the turkey giveaways, people putting away their people that didn't have the money and everything. Michelle Pitts, God bless you. I love you. Walk with the Holy Spirit. He'll walk with you. Continue to do the wonderful things that you're doing. And Nate and the Luckett family, the brothers, churches, coming to a church or a coliseum or a convention center near you sometime soon. So, yeah, be sure to see them, the Luckett brothers, as well as Lamont, Sanford and Son. Well, Fred, here he comes. Lamont, I'm coming to join you. So, yeah, a lot of memories there with Mr. Desmond there of the Fred Sanford there, eulogizing him as well. Found that out through my daughter on Saturday. But, yeah, Lamont, Mr. Desmond, but Lamont Sanford and Son, yeah. So, but a couple different things real quick before my time runs out here. Oh, man, Black History, well, I'll tell you, I found out, I'm in my mid-60s now. I found out in my early mid-50s about Tulsa, Oklahoma, Greenwood, Archer, and Pine. I seen the Gap Band in concert. I didn't know that you dropped a bomb on me until a brother had told me that they're not talking about how good the romance was, Tyrone. They're talking about Greenwood, Archer, and Pine in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street. And my mind has been all over the place since that, about 10, 12 years ago when I found out. Yeah, yeah. Because, I mean, Dr. King, Malcolm, Medgar, none of them spoke about it. So I found out right after the concert there, in fact. So I've been messed up. And then, of course, Hollywood's going to do different things with, put their spin on it, just like they did Killer of the Flower Moon with the Osage tribe, the Caucasian men marrying the Indian women there for the oil money, and then killing them. All that happened in 1921. So this country's got it bad, Reverend. This country's got it bad, man. I don't know what, I don't have my military books in front of me right now, but I believe at one time, dissension in the ranks, treason, mutiny, any of that got you pulled in front of the firing squad there. I don't know. There's crickets coming from the Pentagon with the generals and all that there. It's almost like Trump told them, don't talk to me, which is very unprofessional. I think there's just dissension in the ranks there, starting from the top there, and they're leaving the troops and all those people on those ships and submarines vulnerable, especially if you're talking about Taiwan, Greenland, Iran, Syria. You don't have a fighting chance without your generals, 1 to 5, 5-star generals, with Colin Powell. Those people retire with their rank because they've earned that. You didn't give it to them, so you can't take it away from them. They need to be in that war room around that war table strategizing. Otherwise, this country's fighting a losing cause without our generals and our people in brass then.
Right.
So I'll get back with you again. I didn't want to talk about
thank
the
you.
after show.
Thank you so much for your call. Good to hear from you. Let me go to Demetrius in Cleveland, Ohio. WERE, Demetrius.
Hey, thank you, Reverend Sharpton. It's good talking to you. First of all, I would like to mention, they let the policeman go. They say he was innocent, the one who didn't help rescue the children in Texas who got shot.
Right.
And then had the school shooting. Yeah, I believe that's outrageous because I believe, he could have made some type of attempt because he heard the shots going on. And a lot of innocent children lost their lives. I believe if the children, though, wasn't Hispanic, it would have been a different ruling.
No, I side with you. I think there was really some bias in how they responded, and it was outrageous. So while I celebrated what we were able to do in Illinois with the Sonia Massey case, then we get slapped there in Texas. That's why the struggle is not a one outlier thing. You got to keep fighting. Change a system, not just a case. But go ahead.
Yeah, that's true. You sure do. And also over the weekend, Donald Trump, he said he's going to put tariffs on countries who sell oil to Cuba. To me, that's just trying to punish Cuba for no reason at all. Cuba haven't done anything to this country, so why make their economic situation worse than it is? Because they already don't have some of the basic things in life, because the country trying to stay together the best as it can. And also, I'd like to mention when it comes to the Black History, outstanding events, I think the one was the Million Man March, what Louis Farrakhan had. That was very significant. Black men came together, to show that they can unite. Also, the Marcus Garvey movement as well, show that we can come together economically, and also in the other cities where the black businesses came together, in Tulsa and down south in Mississippi, and other states as well. We can't come together economically and support each other. And also, when Jesse Jackson used to negotiate with the different businesses, like with Coca-Cola and so forth, try to have them promote, hiring black people and giving some type of contract to black business. I think that was significant as well, because those businesses, they make money off of black people, but they have contracts with other groups of people. And the black businesses, they should have some type of contract as well with these large corporations. It's not like we begging them for it. We just want our equal share as in the other corporation. That affirmative action is not
All
a
right,
handout.
wait, I got to take
Yes,
my break.
equal.
Thank you for your call, Demetrius. Keeping it real. Sharpton, I'll be right back. Hello. Many people cannot focus. Keeping it real. Hi, it's Reverend Al Sharpton, President and founder of National Action Network. We are at the very end of 2025, and I want to first say that I want to thank all of the officers, chapter leaders, regional directors, national staff, and certainly National Board of National Action Network for a solid and absolutely incredible year in 2025. Despite the fact that we are under assault, voting rights, diversity, equity, and inclusion, the battles globally where we're seeing Nigeria and Venezuela attacked, and on and on and on. We have been steadfast as an activist organization in the tradition of Dr. King. We started the year with a national call that thousands responded to, and we were in Washington on our side of town while Trump was being inaugurated on the other side of town. And we made a pledge. We told people to lift their hand and make the pledge. And we kept that pledge to work all year to keep the dream alive. And that led into when Trump went after DEI, we supported some that were boycotting, and we started boycotting, something that had never happened. We said we're going to go buy from those that have committed to keep DEI, and went in several cities around Costco's and shopping. We've now bought stock in other companies. We're going to shareholder meeting and demand they continue DEI. We've had a sensational National Action Network convention covering the span of activity, from political empowerment to education, to how we deal with the black church, how we deal with black women development that has to deal with both discrimination based on gender and race. And of course, we came to Wall Street by the thousands and marched in late summer on the anniversary of the March on Washington. And people thought you could not get people out, and they came from all over the country. And we marched on Wall Street and had an enormous turnout. The only mass black march, black-led march this year. We had a lot of protests, a lot of marches. I salute all No Kings marches and all. But the black organization march, it welcomed everybody. We had white, black, everybody there. Was our march on Wall Street in August. And then our Triumph Award and on into our fall agenda of organizing, mobilizing. We've expanded. We've started chapters in about 12 new cities. So I am proud of what we've done this year, but it's only the beginning, because our very rights are under attack, and they're not even being quiet about it. They want to revoke the Voting Rights Act. Section 2 may fall with this agreement. They want to end the Civil Rights Act of 64. That's what the end of DEI is about. So let us be more alert and active than ever. History will decide whether the civil rights gains of the 50s and 60s died in the 2020s. That's on your watch and mine. So if we've got to march, we have to protest, we have to lobby, we have to rally, whatever we need to do, we need to put our shoulder to the wheel more than ever. I'm going to lay out a plan on King Day, both in Harlem at our annual event and in Washington at our annual Martin Luther King Day breakfast that we do in D.C. We do 2 cities that day. And then, of course, all roads lead to New York paper for our convention. We had, as I said, the largest attendance convention last year. In 2025, it needs to be more this year because our very existence is at stake. We also are closing our negotiations on a new headquarters, our national headquarters that befit our mission. I'm so excited about it, but I can't give you details. We're just about ready to sign the contract, but it will be something that will last longer than many of our lifetimes. So we came alive in 25, despite a hostile administration, despite the fact that a lot of people were intimidated and spooked in the silence. We came alive in 25. Now we have to straighten out tricks in 26. I need you, we need each other. Let's do this. All these tricks, don't forget, Trump only won by 1.5%. He is trying to act like he has a mandate. No, he has a mission, Project 2025. We have the mandate that we can't let them undo what has been done. And we must even go further for the empowerment of all people. Happy New Year. And be focused. I thank God I was blessed to have both in my life. Both historic, strong figures. But if I misuse them and listen to not only figures that are not as historic as them, but figures that had nothing to do with the calling and purpose of my life, I would live confused. I'd be double-minded. I'm clear. And what I want you to do is be clear. Clear on who you are and why you are. And a lot of that will be exposed to you and others by who you are around and who you allow to enter your head. Keep people at a distance that only have a distant and unclear vision of who you are and who you are supposed to be. They could be your blood relatives, but they could not be the ones that accompany you toward what you ought to be about tonight. Everybody good to you and good for you. Everybody that makes you laugh sometimes end up making you a joke. Around this is so wicked. Now they're going to, they released last night a memo that said that the FBI was investigating good. They're trying to come up with something on the victim. Not they're going to investigate who shot her. The ICE agent shooting in the head 3 times. They're going to investigate her. And you wonder why we need movements. You wonder why we need to stand up. Hakeem Jeffries was here Monday. Why we need to deal with this midterm election. Well, Reverend, I get calls on my radio show every day. Well, I don't see where voting changed them. All right, let me tell you where if they lose the Congress this year, where it changes. The Speaker would be Hakeem Jeffries, who grew up right here in Name, as he said on Monday. The Speaker decides then the calendar for the legislative session. The chairs of the committees become Democrats. So the Judiciary Committee, now watch this in the barbershop. The chair of the Judiciary Committee, y'all saw the Judiciary Committee have the hearing and brought in the special counsel yesterday. Well, the chair this time, if the Democrats win, would be a Democrat who could then subpoena the Attorney General Bondi, all of the folks that were involved in January 6th. They can subpoena the Vice President, all of them, because you've got the power of the gavel. Wonder why nobody has asked Pence how he felt running for his life January 6th. Well, if you get the Judiciary Committee, you can subpoena Pence.
This is a defining moment. As our world faces urgent challenges, the movement comes together. National Action Network's 35th anniversary and convention, April 8th through the 11th. Leaders, activists, and community voices united for justice and change. The moment is now. Be in the room.
Keeping it real. I am your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're back. It's Hot Button Monday and Black History Month. I'm asking you to tell me the significant parts of Black history you think should be mandatory teaching in our homes. They're taking it out of schools, and several good answers so far. We have a lot to talk about, and as I say every year, I'd like us to recount Black history so that we can make some Black history. And I think that is important. And I think that many of us ignore Black history. Then many of us stand by and let others interpret our history, but don't realize we had to make some in our time. We're joined, as we are every Monday, for our Monday session, Hot Button Monday, by the Democratic strategist and founding CEO of Blueprint Strategy LLC, the one and only Antoine Seawright. How you doing, Antoine?
Great Monday to you, Reverend Al.
Thank you. Let me get some things out of the way that I wanted to ask you about, and I'm going back to the phones. I want to also ask you about Black history, but I want to get some issues of today clarified, and then we can go back. I have Reverend Byrd here in the office today. The vote that will take place tomorrow in the House, that Mike Johnson says, the Speaker says he has to vote. We had Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries on my show Saturday night, and he is saying that no Democrat will vote to fund ICE until there's major changes. If there is not enough votes in the Senate, because they have to get 60 votes, the House, all they need is one vote above the Democrats. And they send it back to the Senate. Explain the process and explain the things that the Democrats and the Congressional Black Caucus and Latino Caucus are demanding around this question of ICE.
Well, the big sticking point around ICE is, one, they are members of all across the caucus calling for Kristi Noem to be impeached or for the president to fire her. Obviously, we don't have the votes just yet because we're not in the majority to impeach her, but that's the call. That's the Corian call. But as it relates to the vote tomorrow is more of a procedure vote from the committee to move the process forward. What Leader Jeffries has been very clear about from his perspective, and I think from majority of the caucus, is that most of the caucus will not vote to fund that agency if there are not some serious reforms put in place. Now, the real fight, Reverend Al, obviously the Republicans, Johnson is saying Republicans will have enough votes to pass the rule tomorrow. I think that's fine. But the real fight would take place around February 13th-ish when they've got to take a final vote on whether or not the agency is funded, which means we could get into an agency shutdown posture if the votes are not there with the serious reforms it's going to take. And Johnson and soon are going to need Democratic support both in the House and the Senate to get that done. So don't be surprised if you see some Democrats tomorrow vote to proceed with the rule. But also just know long-term, the big fight is going to be actually on the actual funding bill where people will decide whether or not DHS will shut down or not until they get some reforms that are necessary and needed.
So tomorrow is a procedural vote.
Yeah, tomorrow is more of a procedural vote. You'll probably see some split in the caucuses for various reasons because it's the 5 bills together. But once you clear the hurdle from a rules perspective of the 5 different bills together, And then it goes back to individual funding. They will vote on around the 13th of November, I want to say, maybe 12th. And then that's when the rubber will meet the road.
Not of November. They're going to vote for that, aren't they?
I'm sorry, February. I'm sorry, February. I'm thinking about the November election. But February.
All right. Now, at the same time, the Epstein files. We see that the DOJ, Department of Justice, has released 3.5 million documents, but admit that that's not everything and claim that there are still open cases, so they can't release it. Open cases against who? Maxwell's in jail. They done put her in a luxury jail. Epstein is gone. So many of us, including yours truly, feel that a lot of what we're hearing is distractions against the Epstein situation. And even what little they put out, we're seeing a whole lot of powerful people that claim they didn't have a relationship with Epstein was wiring back and forth. How much of that is, in your judgment, a lot of while they're flooding the zone, every day something else, or is that our paranoia?
No, Ray, I think you're spot on. And we all know that this administration has been known to master the art of distraction. Not only are they distracting they're using all of this stuff to distract from the affordability crisis they've created from a healthcare and an economic standpoint unnecessarily, and the bipartisan posture of the United States Congress to release those files has been a slow walk process because they know what's in the files. They also know they campaigned to their base that they had no problem releasing the files, and that was going to be a priority. They were on Pam Bondi's desk, etc., and yet they refused to do so. And the part that has been leaked had some very vulgar, explosive things about the president in those files, and DOJ quickly took it off their website because they know once the information gets out there, the American public are going to draw their conclusions by the fact of what's in the files. And so they're going to continue to slow drip and slow walk this process and use every tool in the toolbox to stall because they don't want to feel the vibrations of or the impact of what's in that file. But at the same time, Reverend, I want to be clear about the gospel according to Antoine. I think Epstein is very important in the same way I think ICE is very important. But we've also got to think about what people are going to be thinking about in November to give us a long-term boiling point to talk about, and that is this affordability crisis. Doesn't mean we cannot talk about all these things at once, but I don't want to get lost in the fact that 25 million people in this country are going to be paying more or not having health insurance at all because they have simply given us the middle finger. I don't want to get lost in the fact that unemployment is up, gas is up, groceries up, electricity is up. Everything you can imagine that's supposed to be down is up, and what's up is supposed to be down. And so we've got to be able to block and tackle over the next several months and stay laser focused with affordability being the centerpiece of our messaging.
What is the Black history, what in Black history, I'll put it that way, would you like to see stressed this, the 100th anniversary of Black history? There's so much Black history, from inventions to breakthroughs, everything you can think of. But what is it that you would focus on if you had to stand in front of a crowd of young people and say, this is something I want y'all to look into?
I want young people and the not so young, the seasoned, to understand that we need to learn our history. There's so many creative things. The world does not move without Black creativity. And I said this earlier today on a radio interview, and Black history is American history, and there will be no American history without Black history. I want folks to understand how our history will help shape our destiny and our right now. George Santiago, as you know, because Clyburn oftentimes quotes him from that generation, if you do not learn from history, you're bound to repeat it. Well, there's so many folks who have pushed history on the back burner that they don't understand their own family history, they don't understand our community history, and as a result, they can't understand why some of the stuff that's happening right before our eyes, and it's happening right before our eyes. And that's why we have to make certain that we lock down and learn our history. And the second thing, help young folks and the not so young understand that just because we've made progress does not make it permanent. And we've got to learn how to protect every bit of progress we make along the way. Otherwise, we're going to go back to a place that will be worse off than our parents' and grandparents' generation.
And they're doing it legally. I think that what a lot of people don't understand, one of the historic principles, Reverend Byrd, of that I think we don't often enough talk about, and I said it on somebody's show this weekend, including mine, is that with the King movement and those allied with it, A. Philip Randolph and others, they changed laws. So they didn't just march, protest, and all, change laws. Civil Rights Act 64, Voting Rights Act 65. And that is why me coming out of that tradition, though I was a kid when they did it, but joined at 13 when Dr. King was killed, we want to change, and we did in some cases laws, stop and frisk laws, racial profiling laws, etc. What I don't think people understand is this right-wing followers of Donald Trump MAGA movement are trying to reverse those laws. So they didn't just say, stop hiring blacks at a quota. They said it is against the policy now to do DEI. You're violating government law. And I think that is something that we are not emphasizing enough. Let's take a break. I want to hear Antoine and you, Reverend Byrd, on that, because I think people don't understand the reason why Rosa Parks is significant is it led to the law being changed. It led to the law being changed when we got the Voting Rights Act out of Selma. So kids that wasn't even born enjoyed something because it wasn't the flavor of the month. It was the law change. That's what Trump and them are trying to do, Stephen Miller and them. Let's take a break. 1-877-532-5797, Sharpton, C-Right, Byrd, keeping it real. Be right back. Do you know what time it is? It's Al Sharpton time. It's time to put aside all pretenses, deception, denial, or fronting. The time has come to keep it real on Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton. You need to keep it real with Reverend Al Sharpton right here on Uber TV. Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're back. 1-877-532-5797. 1-877-532-5797. Let's go back to the phone. Attorney Jennifer Jones-Austin is... every day, Monday through Friday, I do 3 hours a day on Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton. I do 1 hour on Sunday mornings with Reverend Al Sharpton. And I'm live on radio and TV with the Saturday Action Rally. 7 days a week, I talk to our people, hear from them, to call in. I'm sick and tired of people talking for people that they don't talk to. So go on www.nationalactionnetwork.net. Listen to my show, call in, express your opinion. You don't have to agree with me. But let's start talking to each other rather than about each other and lecturing at each other. Let's keep it real with Sharpton.
Happy 20th anniversary to Reverend Al Sharpton on 20 years of Keeping It Real. 2 decades of truth-telling, fearless advocacy, and keeping the people informed and empowered. Thank you for always speaking power to justice and standing firm for what's right. Here's to 20 years of impact and many more to come.
Some of you forget where you come from and forget how you got there and act like you got there because you were qualified or that you had a good resume. But some of us had to pay a price for your resume to even be read. Some of us had to take nights in jails and licks upside the head or shut out of boardrooms like Byron, so you could walk down red carpets and act like you got there by yourself. So I received this award with a special place in my heart and on my shelf, because I'm getting it from a freedom fighter who never forgot where he came from and how he got there. Yes, we've come a long way. We've had now a black president and now a black vice president, but we still can get shot down and have to march to get a case in court. We still can get shut out of boardrooms. We're still doubly unemployed in a good economy. So we're gonna have to keep marching. And I thank not only my family, a mother that raised me by herself, but I thank that lady at the end of the march that knows she won't be on TV that night and knows her name will never be in the paper, but she believed in me enough to get at the end of the line and make me look good. Because Dr. King used to say, if you call a march and no one shows up, you just going for a walk. And I want to thank those that marched with me. 32 years ago, here in Los Angeles, we marched. And then many years later, with George Floyd and others, we're still marching. And I'm gonna keep marching, I'm gonna keep agitating, and I'm gonna keep going. Until we don't have to do it anymore. Eddie, known you a long time, Mariah, Chris, and your kids. And I promise you this, the only thing that I really live for is I get up with this dream that every bigot, every racist, everyone in this country that hates will say, damn, he's up again. And I think that is extremely important about the funding. But I also want to add how they're changing what can be taught. You have states outright saying you can't teach black history and you can't teach certain other histories and the curriculum. You have this administration that is literally taking out exhibits from the Smithsonian. So we have not only an education problem in terms of resources, we have an education problem in terms of curriculum and what people are being taught. So I have one grandchild, 6-year-old. When he gets to high school, it may be just against the law for him to learn about certain parts of American history, which includes blacks. We want to talk about slavery. We want to talk about the good side of America. Well, what does that mean? That's not history. Everything was not good. And I think that that is the threat that we've got to fight, which is why we've got to fight with the courts and the streets, because they're literally changing the textbooks as we go. As they do that, they change the opportunity, because then the fight against affirmative action is not having access to these institutions and telling these institutions, this whole fight around DEI, in which they did DEI, started in Harvard with a black woman president. Started with them saying you can't teach diversity in an Ivy League school like Harvard. It didn't start in Little Rock at the high school. This fight, this time, was Harvard. And they went from there on. And I think that we've got to have the same resistance. If they could fight in the 50s, that ACP would Defense Fund was gathered and deal with the question from Little Rock in terms of desegregation, then we that are far more educated, far more economically secure personally, have no excuse in the age of what they did in Harvard not to be standing up back in the South. you. Let me say I wanted to come today on Martin Luther King Day. Because Martin Luther King died in Memphis fighting for wages for garbage workers. And I believe he would want those of us that come in his tradition to be standing with nurses and standing with those that should be getting wages for saving the lives and caring for people that the private hospitals and other hospitals seem not to care about. How can you spend King Day and turn your back on people that are working and not insured right and not given the right wages and not given the right respect when they're taking care of our afflicted, our ill, our infirm? In the name of Martin Luther King, I join the nurses in demanding justice for the nurses. This is not only a labor issue, this is a civil rights issue. This is a human rights issue. It's an issue that black and white, Latino, Asian, all can stand together. Because those that want to make profits out of people's illness, rather than pay for those that care for them, that stand for them, that are there when their families are not there in some cases. So we had to come on King Day. Many of the dignitaries came to the House of Justice, but I left to come and stand here with them to let them know that Martin Luther King Day is a day to stand up for those that stand in the cold, but they never left the patients in the cold. No justice. And it's Hot Button Monday. It is also, we're taking special note of the 100th anniversary of Black History Month starts yesterday and goes through. And we're talking about that as well as the pending legislation that will impact affordable health care, that will directly impact it, and other things. We're talking with, of course, our co-host on Mondays, Antoine Seawright, the Democratic strategist, and I had step in to join us, the Reverend Dr. Malcolm Byrd. Antoine, let me go to you first. Is Antoine?
Rev, are you there?
Yeah, we're here. Is he there?
Rev? Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Yeah, Rev. Well, we were talking about a number of things before you went to the break, but on the whole, I want to reiterate something about Black History Month because you mentioned something that was so important. Rev, I get a lot of invitations to speak a lot of places, and we're speaking at a church coming up, 2 churches coming up this month. What was genuinely concerning for me was the pastor of the church, and I won't call names because I think he and his wife may be listening, and I'm going to talk about it in front of his face, but the pastor said to me, do you think it's time for us to move on from talking about some of the things from our past and start to focus on things that's going to impact us in the future? And here we are celebrating 100 years of Black history. And we got a leader of faith who I have a lot of respect for. We don't always agree, but we respect each other. He literally said that to me as I have accepted an invitation to come speak at his church. Reb, that should be concerning for everybody. Because if that is the move from a faith leader in this country, then can you imagine what that means for downstream everyday Americans and how they feel in our community? That's why we've got to keep history alive and well and in front of our faces. And we also have to remind ourselves that just because we passed the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act don't mean that they have not done everything they can to take these things away.
Reverend Byrd.
And I absolutely agree, and Reverend Sharpton, when you look at the contributions of our foremothers and fathers, particularly with those acts of the 1960s, and you're eminently correct, Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, and their imps have been focused on how to hit the rewind button concerning Black America. Perhaps they have studied how to conquer people. How do you conquer a race? And one way to do that is to remove historic achievements from a people's dossier. Remove from them their achievements and their struggles. close down their museums, take down their history from the first presidential mansion in Philadelphia. And once you began to denude a people by removing them and separating them away from their history, then it's easy to come in to teach a narrative about history that does not include them. So there's a systematic push by this administration to lift up an America that is not true, that is not accurate, and also to put black people who've made tremendous contributions to this country. Let's not forget, the first person to die in the American Revolution was a black man from Barbados, Crispus Attucks. So they have learned through studying world history that in order to conquer a people, you must first cut them off of their successes and their history.
Well, I think that is also why in slavery they didn't want us to know our history.
Right.
And you were robbed of our collective history and of our broad history because they took your name. I tell all the time that when this reporter from the New York Daily News, Antoine, did a family tree research on me, he was doing an article on notable blacks for Black History Month, 2007. He found out that my great-grandfather was a slave in Edgefield, South Carolina, to Alexander Sharpton. That's how we got our name. So when I sign my name, I'm signing the racial history of this country. Because Sharpton was not my name. Sharpton was the name of the owners of my great-grandfather, who had my grandfather, who had my father. And if you don't know your history, then they can replace it and put in whatever history they want. And I think that you are absolutely right about this minister that invited you to his church. Secondly, for a minister, I have to say this as a minister, for a minister to preach out of the Bible is nothing but history. So if he's saying, don't you think we should move on, then how you going to get up and preach about Moses and David and the three Hebrew boys? All that's history. And how we got out of Egypt and all that's political history, movement history. So you should not only deal with him when you get there, you ought to ask him, is he using a Bible? Because the Bible is a history of God's relationship to man. Why do we have a Bible if we're not supposed to learn from history?
And Rev, I'll say this to you. You think about what has happened in just 1 year. We've wiped out, essentially, Reverend Byrd, 3 or 4 generations of black progress in this country in one election of Donald Trump. One election has wiped out 3 or 4 generations of progress. And I don't say that being funny. I'm not trying to exaggerate.
No,
I'm not trying to hype this up. We've wiped out 3 or 4 generations. That's why when you think about our history, yes, we've marched. Yes, we've protested. Yes, we've exercised our right to petition the government for change. But we all calcified that in the end with our vote when we had the opportunity. And now, not only have they said, let me give you 2 middle fingers about your progress, let me also take away the one power that we've given you to try to petition for change in this country, and that's your vote. And that's why the Supreme Court ruling on the Voting Rights Act is going to be critical. That's why redrawing the lines in these states for these congressional districts are going to be critical. Jim Clyburn is not the first black congressman from South Carolina. He was the first black congressman since Reconstruction. It was 95 years, Reverend Al,
that's right,
between Jim Clyburn and the last African-American elected from South Carolina on purpose. And if we're not careful, this court rule, they redraw the 6th congressional district in South Carolina, it could be another 100 years before we have a black congressman from South Carolina again.
That is what they're hoping to draw it to be. And the question is, do we realize that and do we act? That's why I say every year we need to know our history and then we need to make some history. But you can't make history unless you have the continuity from knowing what your history was. Everybody in this country, every race, every ethnic group knows their history, teaches their kids their history, but we are the only ones debate on whether we ought to do ours. Right. And debate on whether I don't know anybody. I grew up in New York, a multicultural metropolis. Everybody knew their history. and could tell you the history. The most ignorant person in school knew what their history was in terms of their nationality. We standing up there like we got to start at every new generation. That's a trick. That's how you went from Nina Simone to Nicki Minaj. Let's take a break on that. 1-877-532-5797. Keeping it real. That's what I do. Sharpton. That's my name. Be right back.
King, Dr. Richardson, most of all, let me thank Reverend Al Sharpton for bringing us all here together today in the Urban Action Network. I am proud to be a candidate for the presidency of the United States of America. But I am mindful that I wouldn't be here if it had not been for Reverend Al Sharpton running for president, and Carol Moseley Brown running for president, and Jesse Jackson running for president, and Shirley Chisholm running for president. They paved the way, and I stand on their shoulders.
When Coretta Scott King, the widow of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., had this to say about Al Sharpton.
A leader who has protested injustice with a passionate, unrelenting commitment to nonviolent action in the spirit and tradition of Martin Luther King Jr. And I am talking about your leader, our leader, the Reverend Al Sharpton.
I celebrate the day you were born. You have been, over all of your years, such an extraordinary leader. You are a voice of truth, a voice of conscience, a voice of practicality around what we must address and what we can do.
Thank you, Rev. Thanks for that introduction. Look, we've known each other for a long time. I'm grateful not only for your leadership and partnership, but quite frankly, more importantly, for your friendship. And thanks to all of you, members of our nation's most important civil rights organization.
For over 3 decades, the National Action Network has stood on the front lines for our communities, fighting for justice, lifting up the voiceless, and showing up where it matters most. Presidents, world leaders, and global change makers have all testified to Reverend Al Sharpton's impact and National Action Network legacy of good trouble in the fight for equality. This holiday season, our commitment grows even stronger. We're expanding food distributions, toy drives, and direct support for families who need us now more than ever. Stop right now and join the movement.
Past hope, because I grew up, like I said, single mama on welfare, and my mother told me there's a part in life that hope's gonna run out, but she told me you got a double barrel in your engine. I said, what is that? She said you can switch from hope to faith. Faith is a little deeper than hope. Bishop Hilly is here. Faith is when hope runs out. Faith is the substance of things. Hope for the evidence of things not seen. Faith is when we were emancipated after 246 years of slavery and walked off the plantations with no education, no money, no future. And we built black churches and black colleges and black fraternities. We had faith. Faith made us stand up to the most powerful nation in the world and turn it around. Faith means we went from the back of the bus to the front of the White House. We've come this far by faith, leaning on the Lord, trusting in His holy word. He never failed us yet. Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're back. It's Hot Button Monday, Black History Month, and of course, I'll kick it off every Monday. We have Antoine Seawright as my co-host, and we have this week Reverend Bird is sitting in with us. I'll see on our message page that Bruce Turner says Destiny. They need to get Pastor Terry Anderson to straighten them out. I know you like that, Bird.
Listen,
and of course, let me remind everybody, Politics Nation with Al Sharpton live at 5 every Saturday and Sunday. And I dealt with Black History Month yesterday, the first day of Black History. Had on our U.S. Senator, sister from Delaware, Senator Rochester. We also had, over the weekend, we had Hakeem Jeffries on Saturday, who will be Speaker of the House, first black to be Speaker of the House if we do what we're supposed to in the midterm elections. We had the Secretary of State of Minnesota talking about what they're doing in his state, just on and on and on. I do not believe in wasting your time. So watch Politics Nation with Al Sharpton every Saturday and Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Then you that attend the Saturday Action Rally, we are moved to our temporary place as we get our new permanent headquarters ready. We will be for the month of February at the historic Mother AME Zion Church in Harlem. Same time, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Historic Church, Frederick Douglass spoke there. In fact, they have a little museum there with the lectern that he spoke from. Sojourner Truth did Underground Railroad there. Paul Robeson was a member of this church, and his brother was a pastor. So we're going to a historic site for Black History Month every Saturday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., and you, of course, can watch it live on Impact Television, or you can watch it on www.nationalactionnetwork.net. And then again, Saturday Action Rally, our Politics Nation, and then, of course, the National Action Network Convention, April the 8th through the 11th, here in New York, Sheraton, Times Square. It is all free. I have not even released the names, but I've got heavy hitters, as we always do. And I think that many of us already planning, but you need to come, and you need to be a part of the convention. And I know that sometimes people, I think someone was saying that a few years back they had undocumented getting free hotel rooms. I don't know anything about that. I said that you get free registration. I did not say free hotel rooms. People be getting in suites at the 5-star hotel, so I do not know what you're talking about there. Nobody ever committed that. I think most of our chapters raise money for members, and whether something happened there, I do not know. Let's go to www.nationalactionnetwork.net, www.nationalactionnetwork.net, or you can call the toll-free number at 1-877-626-4651, 1-877-626-4651. I know over 3,000 people have already registered, and we never had the number that high this early. This the first week. This is the second day of February, and usually, I know last year we were about half that, and we ended up with 10,000 people coming to our convention, largest civil rights convention in the country. All right, let's go to the phones, Antoine. Let's go to Philadelphia, WURD, to Disco Brian. Disco Brian, you're keeping it real with Al Sharpton.
Hey, Rev, happy anniversary, keeping it real. I wish I would have discovered this program 19 and a half years ago before I found it, but, I can't turn back time. And Rev, thank you for Politics Nation this weekend. a great discussion with Congresswoman Nikema Williams in Atlanta. And I would like to formally request, if I can, that your colleagues on MS Now feature her and other members of the Congressional Black Caucus far more regularly. She was so almost poetic and brilliant. I don't see enough of her, and I don't see enough members of the Congressional Black Caucus on the airwaves, and it breaks my heart. I have a question for Antoine. Antoine, what is your opinion of Democratic Party politicians, or let's say independents, who caucus with Democrats, who continue to appear on the podcast of the manosphere, of bigots, of people whose comedy is based in ignorance, bigotry, and subtle racism, like Theo Vaughn and Joe Rogan, especially when they go on those shows and only ever laugh along and get along with those very influential white men that I can't stand. What's your opinion of Democratic Party politicians or people who are supposedly with us who do that?
Well, I'm of the opinion, Disco, that we must dance everywhere and anywhere if we want to see and hear, if we want people to see us dance. I appear on Fox News on the regular. I go where I'm asked to go within reason because I want people to understand that I'm not some wild, crazy person out here with some of these bots that's made up information that these right-wingers push along to try to define who Democrats are. I think we go everywhere to compete anywhere. I think it's important for the Fox News audience, the Joe Rogan audience, and every other audience who we can to get our message out to help them understand how our decision-making will end up helping them more than it hurts them. For an example, we've been talking about the healthcare crisis, unnecessary healthcare crisis in this country. Disco, did you know that 18.2 million Americans in places in considered red states are impacted by these ACA subsidies that Republicans refuse to increase or refuse to extend? Well, if we don't talk about those things to that audience, they will think that somehow or another Democrats are bad and the Affordable Care Act is some bad piece of legislation that's hurting everyone. So I think we have to take our message everywhere. And I'm always shocked at the number of African Americans, the number of Democrats who actually say they listen to these programs on a regular basis. And so I may not be the traditional sense in response to your question, but I'm a firm believer we have to go everywhere in order for everyone to hear us. And the same thing when it comes to campaigning. I don't think we can not campaign in Republican areas. I'm not saying we should prioritize that over our base, but I do think we have to go into the lion's den if we want to get the results we want to change this country.
All right, thank you for your call. Let me go to Brother Jacob in Philadelphia, WURD. Brother Jacob.
Reverend Al.
Yes, sir.
Peace be unto you, Reverend. Peace be unto you, Reverend Al, to your guests and your worldwide listeners, right? You know, Reverend Al, you was talking about, you know, these people doing things and they trying to make law. And I'm saying that this leadership that we got here in America, they break the law to get what they want. You know, here, this is Black History Month, right? Now, here in Philadelphia at 6th and Market, we had what they call a slave memorial, right? Showing that George Washington, our first president, held 9 enslaved Africans, right? Against the law again. And they took that down thinking that that's going to stop us telling our history, you know. And, you know, Reverend Al, as a Black in America, I understand that this is how and what it looks like to be at war with principalities and wickedness in high places, right?
Right.
You know, you were talking earlier about the Crybaby Award, right? Now look, if you purchase some of them awards and you got a couple extra, I'll purchase them from you because here in Philadelphia we need it because you know we got the first African American woman in 100 years to be mayor. and she's doing a good job, right? But because that we had a snow that was worse than any snow in decades, right? And she did the best she could do in Philadelphia to keep things moving and satisfy everybody. And they called her everything but a child of God, you know? And we don't need that. Many of us down each other. You know, we don't say nothing to people that we need to say when they're a different color. But our own, we'll just, we just, so if you got a couple of them wards that's extra, I'll purchase them off you because I need them here in Philly.
Yeah,
you know,
I definitely know that. And I think, Brother Jacob, and thank you for your call, that we put on, in many cases, Antoine, black mayors, black members of Congress, blacks in the Senate, we put more on them than we did with their white predecessors. And I think that, yes, they ought to be held accountable, but let's have the same standard for everybody that's held these positions.
Rev, think about the treatment that Donald Trump gets versus the treatment that Barack Obama got.
Right.
They were criticizing Barack Obama for a tan suit.
Right.
And look at what Donald Trump has done to this country. Think about the treatment that Vice President Harris got, first black woman Vice President of these United States, compared to J.D. Vance, who was saying that Haitian immigrants were eating cats and dogs, and ran with that lie all the way through the campaign finish line, and has been unapologetic about being an election denier. Right. And so we've got to learn how to protect our own. Otherwise,
not only being unapologetic, the FBI just went and raided Fulton County on the same premise that has been proven over and over again. There was no fraud. The two sisters sued Giuliani from the same county and won. And they still doing this, flood the zone, don't talk about Epstein, and try to make people feel like something is illicit and fraudulent, because we got to break down, redistrict this stuff before we lose the Congress in November. This is not, it don't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. They're scared to death of the midterms.
And Red, don't be surprised if they try to implement some strategy. And I keep saying this, and I know people brush me off and producers get mad, but don't be surprised if they try to implement some strategy to not have an election in the future. They're teeing up for it. Donald Trump is suspending all use of the Kennedy Center for 2 years.
Yeah.
And he's supposed to leave the White House in 3 years. That's no accident, Red.
And when you look at the fact, that's why I told all of our allies and 9 members in Minneapolis, be very careful. What they want is a mass riot there so they can put in martial law and suspend elections. They want violence. And they'll grab Don Lemon. If I ran in there, they'll try to find a way to grab me. They want something that'll provoke people to go off. And we've got to be strategic, not emotional. Let's take a break. Be right back. Keeping it real. Sharpton. See right. As we look today on King Day. Be right back. Let us not forget that we had to struggle to even have this day. They did not wake up one morning and say, let's give a federal holiday to Martin Luther King. People petitioned. People marched. Mrs. Coretta Scott King, who never has gotten the credit she deserves in being the force behind this movement. Congressman John Conyers, Stevie Wonder, and others. And Ronald Reagan, who had called Martin Luther King a communist, ended up being the president that had to sign the bill for Martin Luther King's federal holiday. The reason why we know struggle works is this holiday is a result of struggle, signed by a president that never thought it would be. Let us remember now, as we bring our children and grandchildren up the Potomac that they can see the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial, the Jefferson Memorial, and one memorial that never served as president, but changed this country more than any other American, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. But we gather this morning because everything Dr. King stood for is at risk. As we speak, we're waiting to see what the Supreme Court will do with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, one of the major achievements of the King movement. As we speak this morning, this sitting president has declared war on DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is the core of the Civil Rights Act of '64. We are under attack, and we should not be taking this as a day off. This is a day on to fight to keep what was maintained. To see, I remember 6 years ago, Martin III and I were in Minneapolis leading the marches around George Floyd. I did the eulogy at his funeral. 6 years later, we see a white female, unarmed, killed in Minneapolis. We see people being racially profiled. We see that there are those that would want this to be the last federal holiday named after King. Don't you be deceived. This sitting president and his cohorts would want to end Martin Luther King Day. But just like we will not let them end this day, we will not let them end voting rights and Civil Rights Act and DEI. It's not enough to remember and honor the dreamer and let them kill the dream. And that's why National Action Network has every year started in Washington, D.C. with this breakfast, and then we go to New York with our public policy forum. And every year we try to set an agenda and go into April. We always have our national convention in April, which is the month Dr. King was killed, to say that they killed the dreamer, not the dream, and those of us that come out of that movement is going to continue to fight. This April will be our National Action Network is 35 years old in this April at our convention. One of the things, though, we've been most proud of is to try to keep the assignment that we were given. As I said, Mrs. Coretta Scott King never got the credit she was due. She's the matriarch of this movement. You must know that Dr. King was in Boston, had graduated Morehouse College, 19 years old, went to Boston University, an Ivy League school at a time many blacks couldn't get in them. Met a young lady who was in conservatories, going to be an opera singer from Marion, Alabama, Coretta Scott King. They decided to go back south. A lot of blacks that went north and had their upper movement never wanted to go back south. But for whatever reason, Dr. King wanted to go back south. And Mrs. King stood right with him and went to Alabama and ran into history. It is always those that accept the calling that change history. And we should never forget the sacrifice made of Dr. Martin and Mrs. Coretta Scott King, because they did not have to go and lead a boycott. They were Boston University Conservatory graduates. They chose to fight. And when it fell their lot, they kept fighting. And even after Dr. King was assassinated, she kept the movement going. Martin III bonded me and his mother, and she used to reprimand me. Al, you got to be careful with your language. Al, I know you up north, but do this, that, and other. She got on me about being not only in the tradition in your actions, because we always was there, but even in your rhetoric. And it was because of that it meant so much. For the last 30 years, Martin and I have walked step by step together because we had that bond. And I felt that Mrs. King gave us that. He has kept this dream alive all over the world. He has worked with the offsprings of Mahatma Gandhi to keep this tradition going. But I thought I knew a lot about how God operates because I've been preaching since I was a little boy. So I thought I'd never see another person in the spirit of Coretta Scott King. But Andrea Waters King walks and talks and operates in the spirit of Mrs. Because sometimes I turn around and think Mrs. King is back. She is more adamant. When Martin and I are saying, well, I don't know about this, she gets us on the Zoom and zooms us up. Say, no, y'all got to do this and this way. So I want to bring, before we start the awards, to the stage, the heirs of Dr. Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King, Andrea Waters King and Martin Luther King III.
I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. Just break. I believe that.
Good morning, everybody. I hope the coffee has kicked in by now. I want to start by thanking your leader, the Reverend Al Sharpton, and everyone at the National Action Network for 35 years of standing up for civil rights and opportunity for everyone.
And I couldn't be more grateful for the way that you have blessed the lives of so many, including mine.
As we look today on King Day, let us not forget that we had to struggle to even have this day. They did not wake up one morning and say, let's give a federal holiday to Martin Luther King. People petitioned, people marched. Let us remember now, as we bring our children and grandchildren up the Potomac, that they can see the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial, the Jefferson Memorial, and one memorial that never served as president, but changed this country more than any other American, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
This was an amazing MLK breakfast.
It is truly an honor, and more importantly, this is an important day for us.
I feel incredibly lucky and honored to be in this room on this day, celebrating Dr. King's legacy of civil rights, especially in the moment that we're facing on a national level. It feels like warmth and home being in this room.
So I'm encouraged by today. I'm encouraged that we're getting out, we're protesting, but more needs to be done. We need to lean in.
And let's keep fighting because the job is not done here. And I just feel so honored to get this award. It's not about getting an award, it's about doing the work. And let's keep up with the work.
This is the first Thanksgiving I'm here in New York over 20 years. I'm just glad to be here with Rev today and to hand out the food. It's a blessing. It's a blessing. It's a blessing.
It's Erica Ford, the Peace Doctor in the building. Here at the National Action Network, it's about thanks. It's about giving. It's about gratitude. It's about love. I feel it is important for you to understand that there's work out here to be done, but it starts with gratitude.
Antoine Seawright is our co-host. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Mustafa in Cincinnati, Ohio. Mustafa, you're keeping it real with Sharpton and Seawright. Hello, is Mustafa there? Okay, let me go to my dear friend, the beloved Miss Eunice. Miss Eunice, you're keeping it real in Chicago, the beloved Miss Eunice.
Good afternoon to you and Antoine, and my continued prayers go out for Reverend Jackson. And you took the words out of my mouth, Antoine, what I was going to say about the young people. We have young people like Tiffany Cross, Representative Maxwell, Jenny Austin, and you, Antoine, and others to tell the story. We have a lot of black professionals out there, and that we need them to continue on. And we must say, don't forget to remember how we got here. In 4 months, God willing, I will be 93 years old. And I do remember, although I didn't have it as bad as others, but I know about a lot of it by hearing and seeing what's going on. So we got to get out here and vote. So much I would like to say, Reverend, but you have other callers and that would like to express themselves, so I'm going to move right along. And thank you for taking my call.
Thank you for calling. And I think, Antoine, that it all comes down to the vote. If we are going to be in any way, shape, or form a position to beat back this whole assault on our legislative victories that changed life for us. I mean, people need to stop playing with themselves. It changed our very lives. It's because we were able to get the right to vote, and people are therefore trying to take back that vote because if they can control not only the national Senate and House of Representatives and the White House, but down to the county, down to the district elections, they control how we live our lives, Antoine.
Antoine's not here.
I don't hear Antoine. Let me go back to the phones then while we get that line straight. Let's go to Dallas, Texas. Dallas, Texas to Leon. Leon, you're keeping it real with Al Sharpton.
Now, good afternoon, Reverend Al.
Good afternoon.
Great show you had yesterday, and I thought something that was particularly impactful when you talked about how they tore down the Black History exhibits in Philadelphia. And what this reminded me of was how they burned the books in Germany. They tried to destroy the culture and destroy the history. And again, this is another parallel to fascist behavior. Some of the Republicans say don't call us Nazis, but the behavior with the ICE army, and now you're going to tear down the history monuments that talk about what actually happened in this country. It's just another thing that we tried to talk about when we said before the tendencies of the government were fascist, Nazi-like, and etc. And something that I thought was also important was Jane Fonda when she was on with Stephen Colbert, and she made a comment at the end that was akin to, she said that white people now have to watch out. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was particularly important because Jane Fonda stood out against the war in Vietnam.
Right.
And she was vilified. And as history moved forward, she turned out to be correct. So I think that now that, as she said, white people are seeing the things that we've been going through for hundreds of years, it's starting to kind of sort of shed the light, shine the light on what actually is going on that's happening instead of what they were told during the run-up to the election. The prices were supposed to be coming down. I was going to attack inflation. I'm going to end the wars in a day. And all these different things that he told the American people that convinced them that they should vote for him. Well, as you see now, he deceived everybody, he lied to everybody, and now, as Mr. Seawright has said so eloquently, and like I said, I wish I could speak that well, we have to make sure that we have a free and fair election this November, rather, to make sure that we do as much as we can to stop what Trump's doing, because he's not going to quit until he's stopped. What do you think about that?
I think, thank you for your call. I think you're absolutely right. And he has no reason to stop unless we stop him. If you are someone that is narcissistic and greedy, and no one is stopping you from grabbing all, whether it becomes Greenland or Venezuela, or cut deals for billions of dollars with people in the Middle East, why should you stop when it's feeding the pathology that you come from until you have to stop?
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you for your call. Let me go to Carol in Georgia, WAOK. Carol, you're keeping it real with Sharpton.
Oh, my goodness, Reverend Al Sharpton, what an honor and a privilege. Congratulations on your 20th anniversary, right?
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yes. You had mentioned on your intro that one of the things you wanted to hear about was how should we purvey our history now. You wanted some thoughts on that?
Yes.
And one I wanted to share is that to our young people, I feel like they don't feel the deep correlation between the fights of the past and our rights to vote now. And I just feel like that needs to be conveyed to them. It needs to be expressed to them in raw terms, the fights that it took. Like you mentioned, Nina Simone, like her song, Streams Fruit, like we should play that song endlessly and help them to understand that it was blood that was shed for the rights that we have today, and help them to understand that it's the right to vote or the disenfranchisement of the right to vote that will strip away our freedoms that our ancestors fought for us to have. Like, we need to be able to express to them in a way like to say, when they wanted to put Jim Crow laws in place and make it against the law for our ancestors to even fish for food.
Right. That's right. That's
but
right.
They wanted them working only as sharecroppers or working on the plantations even after slavery, right? They put laws in place. And one of the laws was what do you call it? Vagrancy, right? They can just make laws.
Right.
But it's the power of our vote that prevents them from just making laws. Many people don't even remember that the abolishment of slavery is a temporary law. It's renewed every so many years, right? And they may not renew it again. Like, this is no joke. And if we could just teach the young people, yeah, it's great to talk about who was the first African-American pilot and who invented this, that, and the third. But we need to teach them the fight. That's what every other culture teaches, is the fight. I just came from South Africa and Ethiopia, and they teach the fight.
That's right.
Fight of the
all over the continent. I've been to South Africa, and absolutely right. Thank you for your call. Thank you for your wisdom. Let's take a break. Be right back.
You.
Keeping it real. Sharpton. Be right back. I had a thought this morning that I wanted to share with you about mentorship. I am able to do a lot of what I do because I had great mentors, but there are correct ways and incorrect ways to mentor people, in my opinion. I was mentored as a boy preacher by Bishop F.D. Washington, one of the great Pentecostal preachers of his time. Then Reverend William Jones, who became my pastor after Bishop Washington died, who was unquestionably in the top 5 black church ministers, theologians. Reverend Jesse Jackson, who I started my activism under his leadership, he and Reverend Jones. And I learned politics directly as a youth director from Shirley Chisholm. So even though I didn't finish college, I had the most unique education in the world from being exposed to giants. But the one thing I learned is as I grew older and people started coming younger than me and wanted me to teach and mentor them, the magic of the mentors I had is they did not want me to be their clone. They wanted me to learn things from them and use my own gifts and talent in my own unique way and let me do things on my own, because they knew that if I flopped in some things, it would teach me for the other things. They'll come and help me once I was down, but they were not going to have me avoid being down. And they were not going to impose themselves on me. Why am I saying that? Because too many mentors want clones, and too many mentees want their mentors to put them on a pedestal. Oh, so-and-so didn't do this for me. Oh, so-and-so didn't open doors for me. If they got to open doors for you, it may mean that they knew you weren't ready to go through those doors. Their job is to prepare you. Your job is to develop your own skills, your own unique ways. And I don't care if it's my daughters, who both have come into their own, or anyone else. I'm not a talent agent. I did not form National Action Network to give people their step up. I formed it to fight for justice for everybody. If talented people get in, it's my job to invest and give them a platform. It's their job to get on the platform and perform and show their ability. Sitting with me today in the office as I talk about it is one of my mentees, Reverend Stephen Marshall. Now, Stephen, you just came around us when you were how old?
11 years old.
11 years old. You just turned 40 and now you're called to the ministry?
Yes, sir.
And what do you do in National Action Network?
I help formulate policies, lead in various regions, but most importantly, I senior advisor you on all things from social justice strategies, politics, intergovernmental affairs, you name it, community organizing, all of that stuff.
And I could go through scores of others. My daughters started Huddle. They got Huddles now, which is for young people to meet once a week all over the country. I just saw the video from the Las Vegas National Action Network chapter. Now, when you decided to preach, did I ever tell you to become a preacher?
Not one time.
Who called you to preach?
The Lord.
All right. And did I say go to this school or that school?
No, sir.
Did I open this door, that door? Did I tell you be ready when the doors open?
Always be ready and prepared.
And that's what I'm saying. Get you some young people than you that you can help along the way. But don't be their talent agent. Their talent must speak for themselves. And anybody that grumbles with you about so-and-so didn't do something for them, maybe it's because they didn't feel you were ready, or that they felt if they did it, you wouldn't do it on your own. But we all don't live forever. I want the next generation to speak of me, of National Action Network, and others, the way I speak of Reverend Jones and Bishop Washington and Shirley Chisholm and Reverend Jackson. But I just don't want young people to feel that somebody ought to give them the reins of leadership or give them the reins of business or whatever it is you're in. You need to learn from their journey, get the pearls of wisdom from them, but don't have them do for you, because then it means you can't do it for yourself.
Martin marched in Washington. 62 years later, the dream is not dead.
I'm here because I must be here. Democracy is not there for the pig, and you have to fight for democracy. That's what it is. What Trump will erase, we will replace.
It's the dreamers in many cases have reversed and tried to turn it into a nightmare. We've come to Wall Street rather than Washington this year to let them know you can try to turn back the clock, but you can't turn back time. We gonna keep the dream alive on Wall Street. No justice, no justice, no justice. What do we want? What do we want?
We are the sons and the daughters. We gotta stand up and make it loud. Just like our God told the Pharaoh, let my people go, go. We are a new generation from the ones who have come before. He's calling us into freedom. Let my people go, go. We gonna shine on the shade. Give me a papa God, make the heavens. If you don't say you know what trouble, let my people go, go. The blood, sweat, and the tears that we gathered through the years. If you don't say you know what trouble, let my people go, go. Wade in the water, we did wade in the water, children.
We have a short visit today, so we just wanted to greet you all and thank you for allowing us in. Yes, sir. We were cool. Yeah, we was here.
They were on the plantation. with my
Our
grandmother.
family was on the plantation. Wow. And that's, of course, that's the slave house. That's one of the slave houses.
Sir, it's been 13 years.
That's right.
Good to
How
see
you been?
Doing fine. Good.
Right, so last time. And we,
Alexander Sharpton. How many slaves were staying there?
I have no idea.
This is where they would have a slave.
Yeah, that's when exactly. That was exactly. The two people that most influenced my life are from South Carolina, James and Jesse. Jesse right up the road with me. I went over his mother's funeral. Jesse walked me to my mother's funeral. From South Carolina. Keeping it real! Keeping it real. Keeping it real. I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton.
Yeah, right.
1-877-532-5797, Twitter.com. The Rev Al. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Lola in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Lola at WURD. The word.
Yes, Reverend Al, how are you? And how are you, Mr. Seawright? I wanted to say that, after looking at, I haven't read through all of them, but all those documents of the Epstein file, I know we have to keep our eyes on the prize of voting in May and voting in November and flipping the Senate and the House. However, those things in there are so vile and disgusting about what this president did that are facts and that this man has not been brought down to his knees or been thrown out of the White House. And that's what it shows how white privilege, entitlement, and white supremacy have always ruled this country. If anything like that would have been brought out about President Obama or even the former President Joe Biden, this would have been running on the cable news everywhere, Newsmax everywhere, all day and all night. They would have went through line by line. Some of that stuff in there, like Mr. Seawright said, is so disturbing of what this president has done to young girls. It is absolutely disgusting and disturbing, and he has not been brought out on the brought out of the White House, thrown out on his knees. I mean, we are living in a time where young girls as young as 12, 13, I don't care what their race are, you cannot consent to a grown man. I remember being that age. I was like, you're just a little child in the wilderness trying to figure out going to school, fitting in. You're not thinking about grown men and how to be with a grown man or anything. And so this stuff that they're saying, and the MAGA people saying, oh, no, none of this matters. They have stuff online where they're asking people, does any of this, no, nothing he does doesn't matter. This Reverend Al, this stuff is so disturbing. We have to get these people out. And they're always talking about the Democrats or the independents or whatever. They're the ones who were, remember when years ago they were saying Hillary was the one? No, eating kids and stuff. This stuff that's been going on with them, with the children and all the stuff that's dropped. And then even in one of the files, it said that Epstein said, don't bring any black girls. I don't want to be around any black people. But now they want to put Jay-Z name. They want to put Russell Wilson. They want to put Pusha T name. He didn't even really want to be around black people or black women. So people have to really read and dig into the words of what it's saying. Just because you mention somebody in the email doesn't mean the person actually has something to do with that. People know everybody. You could just go to a party. You've been invited to a party. That doesn't mean you know the host like that. You were invited to the party by somebody else. And so what I think is going on now is a deflection of what the real thing is. The eye on the prize is getting Trump out of office and all of this white supremacy and white entitlement and stuff that's going on. Don't try to put black people and black men involved in this stuff when they're going all the way back to 1996. I mean, when Jay-Z and them wasn't even like big or known like that. And so my thing of what I'm trying to say is let's not take our eyes off the prize about Trump, about what's going on with him. Reverend Al, I tell you, every day I wake up, I meditate, and I pray, because the way that this country is, it would make you go mad if we didn't have you as an outlet to call, to speak to people with like minds, or if we didn't have some type of religion you believe in or a God that you can pray to, you would lose your mind, the stuff that is going on in this country. And then he wants to sue the government, the IRS. He wants to. So this is the thing. You have a president that's in office who's supposed to be for the people, working for the people, but instead he is suing the government and destroying everything around it for the people. He's not for the people. He's not for America. This is our money. We're almost $1 trillion of life, in debt. But he still wants to take money from out of our pockets. So instead of doing affordability, making food go down, making housing costs go down, he even said he wants housing to go up. He said that. So he said it. He wants housing prices to go up. So instead of helping us, instead of helping the middle class, upper middle class, anybody, working people, he wants to sue the IRS and take money out of our pockets. He wants to sue Trevor Noah for telling the truth. So how are you going to sue Trevor Noah for telling the truth last night when it's in the Epstein files? Trevor Noah said exactly what was in the Epstein files. He didn't say anything that wasn't. That's not defamation. I mean, Reverend Al, you have to laugh to not to cry.
You're right. All
because
right.
the stuff that is going on, Reverend Al, I'm born and raised in Philadelphia. I love the city. We would go down there when they put those plaques up. We would go down there with Michael Kort. We saw them. We was down there when they were put up. We went down there. I took pictures. My family would come up here. Reverend Al, it is so hurtful, and it's a disgrace. You go down there, it's just bare. On the judge, all the 9 enslaved people are gone. We're fighting
but the
for it. Michael
disgrace
Kort, everybody
to me,
up here.
The disgrace, and thank you for your call, Lola, and your passion. Disgrace to me is we're not doing anything about it. And I think that you said it right, that our people, if we did not have outlets, we would go mad. I would only add to that some of us have gone mad because we're accepting this as normal and we ought to know better. On our message board, Kennedy Marie Shabazz saying, Reverend Sharpton, I've talked to a lot of younger black adults, and they really think it's not their fight, but we must continue to educate them so they can focus on it. Now, it is not their fight. They are the ones that's the target. Let me tell you something. Now, I'm glad Kennedy sent that to me. I was talking to some young people at one of the stops we're making on the HBCU tour, and this wasn't in front of the audience, just talking in one of the back rooms at the college there. And one of the things that I was saying to them is, do you understand that when I was in Brooklyn College, it was right, I went to Brooklyn College from 72 to 74. It was at a time of the Vietnam War was winding down, but we had gotten the right to vote in 65, protection, Civil Rights Act. I said, you realize that I had more rights than you did when I was in college?
That is quite interesting, Reverend, that you would say something like that, because my mother mentions the exact same thing to me concerning her grandchildren, that all of the fights and the advocacy that she and others did during the turbulent 60s, as you yourself, Reverend Sharpton, they did that for change, not just for themselves, but for their posterity, for their future, for their children, for their grandchildren. Only to have all of that reversed now is shocking, it's sobering, and if anything should motivate us in the next generation, it should be to get into the fight, because if we're not careful, we will lose everything we bled and died for over the last 100 years.
That's the plan. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. Keeping it real. Sharpton, be right back.
Today, an Illinois judge sentenced the former sheriff's deputy responsible for the 2024 murder of Sonya Massey to 20 years in prison. While this conviction represents accountability, I believe nothing short of a life sentence could truly match the life that was taken. Sonya Massey was in crisis and deserved care, not violence. In 20 years, this individual may walk free, but Sonya will never return to her family, never live out her future, never get another chance. National Action Network stood with her loved ones and community then, and we will continue to stand with them now. We must fight to ensure no other family suffers such a horrific loss and demand real reforms, including stronger standards and background checks in law enforcement hiring. This is the work NAN has carried forward for 35 years, standing in the tradition of Dr. King, fighting for one standard of justice and refusing to be silent in the face of police violence and inequality. Our mission remains clear: to protect our communities, demand accountability, and ensure equal justice under the law. Justice must be more than a moment. It must be a movement.
Good morning, everybody. I hope the coffee has kicked in by now. I want to start by thanking your leader, the Reverend Al Sharpton, and everyone at the National Action Network for 35 years of standing up for civil rights and opportunity for everyone. You reminded us that change doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen, as long as we don't give away our power. I also want to recognize my friends, Martin Luther King III and Andrea Waters King, who continue to be such an important part of this movement. Finally, I want to congratulate another great friend, Eric Holder, on this well-deserved honor. Eric was obviously an outstanding Attorney General, and after the career he's had, he could have easily decided to ride off into the sunset. Sometimes I think that his wife Sharon wishes he had. But that's not who Eric is. Instead, over the last decade, he's built the National Democratic Redistricting Committee into a leading force in the fight against gerrymandering. And thanks to them, we've been able to push back some of the worst attempts to undermine our elections. It speaks to Eric's love of country, but also his recognition of how important this work is. He understands that our democracy isn't self-executing. We have to fight for it each and every day. And that's going to be especially true as we head into the midterms later this year. So, thanks to Eric and his team for doing everything they can to put our elections on a level playing field. And thanks to all of you for helping people recognize their own power and put it to good use. Take care, everybody, and God bless.
Many people cannot focus because they have not really come to terms with their calling and life purpose. In order to focus, you must also be clear on what you're focusing on. So if you're not clear on your purpose, if you're not clear on your life's calling, then focus on seeking that. Because if you just read the ways and roads you traveled that you didn't even choose, that were sort of just laid out for you by God, in that it's telling you, speaking to you about what your purpose is and what you were born to do and be. I learned the things that I didn't plan had to be planned by God, and God's plan was directed toward God's purpose in my life. And I focus on that. Not focus on what others do, not focus on how well they're doing or bad they're doing, but focus on whether I'm in line and aligned with what I'm supposed to be about. And in order to move straight ahead, you have to be focused on the path you're running on.
Do you know what time it is? It's Al Sharpton time. It's time to put aside all pretenses, deception, denial, or fronting. The time has come to keep it real on Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton. You need to keep it real with Reverend Al Sharpton right here on Uber TV.
Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're back. 1-877-532-5797. 1-877-532-5797. Let's go back to the phone. Attorney Jennifer Jones Austin is. You know, every day, Monday through Friday, I do 3 hours a day on Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton. I do 1 hour on Sunday mornings with Reverend Al Sharpton. And I'm live on radio and TV with the Saturday Action Rally. 7 days a week, I talk to our people, hear from them, to call in. I'm sick and tired of people talking for people that they don't talk to. So go on www.nationalactionnetwork.net. Listen to my show, call in, express your opinion. You don't have to agree with me. But let's start talking to each other rather than about each other and lecturing at each other. Let's keep it real with Sharpton.
Happy 20th anniversary to Reverend Al Sharpton on 20 years of Keeping It Real. 2 decades of truth-telling, fearless advocacy, and keeping the people informed and empowered. Thank you for always speaking power to justice and standing firm for what's right. Here's to 20 years of impact and many more to come.
Keeping it real, keeping it real. I am your host, Reverend Al Sharpton. Antoine Seawright is our co-host. Reverend Bird sat in with us for the session today. And don't forget, I'm starting early because I'm already on the phones booking people for Saturday and Sunday. Politics Nation with Al Sharpton, live at 5 p.m. on MS Now. MS Now. And we had some heavy hitters over the weekend, from Hakeem Jeffries to Congresswoman Kima Williams. Eugene Robinson, Pulitzer Prize winner of his books in the past. He has a book out now talking about his life history and his family from South Carolina. Very intriguing book. And we're going to have even more people of that caliber on this week. So don't forget to watch it. I know the Super Bowl is Sunday. They do not come on until an hour or so after me. So you ain't missing nothing in the game. Because we got a super fight while you sit up there watching the Super Bowl. Lots gonna happen this week, so we really gonna be pinning it down from the vote in the House, then it going back to the Senate. What happens in terms of this whole thing with ICE, as they are threatening now to come in after Haitians in Ohio? What happens to the Affordable Health Care Act? So a lot of reasons. I want y'all to set your sights now on this weekend, and of course this show all during the week. Also, you that are in the New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey vicinity, meet me or beat me to the Saturday Action Rally. We kicking off Black History Month at the Mother AME Zion Church, that historic Gothic church, neo-Gothic church, 137th Street between Lenox and 7th. We'll be there 9 to 11, our regular hours, but we moved to a new site, and we'll be there every Saturday throughout the Black History Month of February as we prepare for our new headquarters, which is going to blow a lot of your minds. 9 to 11 at 137th and between Lenox and 7th, Mother AME Zion Church of Frederick Douglass, Paul Robeson, and just Madam C.J. Walker's funeral was there. So Reverend Malcolm Bird, who is our Chief Operating Officer, pastors the church. And again, our convention. And we are way over 3,000 now in terms of people that have already signed. The convention is free. Let me be real clear. The convention is free, meaning the workshops and all that we do. I don't know where somebody got on message board saying, what about the rooms? I don't know how you think we can pay for everybody's room. 3,000 rooms, we would be, well, I mean, I don't even know if that's a serious question. But people, if you go to any convention, there's usually a convention registration fee. We're the only ones I know that holds a national convention, and you don't have to pay anything and go to all the sessions, and they are free. So sign up at 1-877-626-4651, 1-877-626-4651. And of course, you can also go on the website at www.nationalactionnetwork.net, www.nationalactionnetwork.net. Now, all of the administrative activities of NAN while we're in transition, including Huddle tonight, will take place. We're leasing the top floor at the Harlem Commonwealth Council. So you in New York that participate with Huddle, Huddle will be on time, as it is every Monday, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at, and that's our community forum, our young people, and it is at 361 West 125th Street, 361 West 125th Street on the 6th floor. Antoine, what is it that we ought to be watching for this week? We have so much at stake, this vote around the budget, which will include ICE, which will include Affordable Care Act. What are the next steps? It goes to the House. Does it go back to the Senate? Tell us about that. And we're still on watch on what the Supreme Court is going to do about the Louisiana case that deals with voting protection.
Well, Red, we certainly have to watch for any distractions that may come out of this White House. We have to watch for any hearings that will take place on Capitol Hill. I am shocked that the DHS secretary has not been brought into the committee process as of yet about the recent shootings. We're still looking for what the investigation will look like after the assassination or the execution of the nurse in Minnesota. So we have to pay attention to what that will look like. But also, as you mentioned, the funding crisis or the funding showdown votes that would take place on Capitol Hill, that's going to have most of the eyes from around the country and around the world to see what that means. And if we go into a partial government shutdown, i.e. an agency shutdown. So we'll just see how much will the political will the Republicans in the House and the House have in order to carry forth Donald Trump's agenda, in particular, the moderate Republicans who are in district where ICE is very unpopular and people are not happy about what's happening with ICE.
Let's go to Mustafa. Mustafa in Cincinnati, Ohio. Mustafa.
Lost him again.
Oh, he's not there again. I went to him twice, wasn't there. First time or the second time, but he might be busy today. I'm sorry. Let me ask you, Reverend Byrd, the one of the things in Black history, and one of the things that bonded you and I when we first met and started talking. You grew up a young man. Your father used to talk about what we were doing in Nan and all. You more around Antoine's age, maybe around the same age, and I am a lot older than both of y'all. But right around the corner from your Mammoth Church is Abyssinian Baptist Church, and one of the people that I think does not get enough mention in Black history, who was my original hero when I was 11, 12 years old. I was captivated by the image of Adam Clayton Powell on television. I used to see him. I was a boy preaching in the Church of God in Christ, so a lot of the kids wouldn't play with me because their parents used to come hear me preach as a little boy, and they couldn't do mischievous things around me. So I'd watch the news a lot, and I'd see Adam Clayton Powell, wanted to meet him, and was stunned at that age that he knew who I was, but he would listen to our broadcast from Washington Temple. And Adam Clayton Powell, I would argue, was the most consequential elected member of Congress in the 20th century. Manpower training development, many of the labor laws, many of the education laws, all of that he passed through Congress as chair of education and labor. And it is amazing to me that a lot of people right there around the corner from the church he pastored, Abyssinian Baptist Church, does not know the historic significance of Adam Clayton Powell.
Reverend, I couldn't agree with you more. Without question, the Reverend Adam Clayton Powell Jr. was perhaps the most powerful Black man for the first 65 years in American politics, from, let's say, 1900 all the way to about 1965 or 1966. The number of bills he was able to pass through his committee in Congress is really exceptional. But you have to also remember, when you talk about Adam Clayton Powell, you got to go back to the early 1940s with the Harlem bus boycott, things that were happening in Harlem, and don't buy where you won't be hired. A lot of things that would become in vogue in America with the civil rights movement in the 1950s and 60s, he was pushing in Harlem in the early 1940s. And he was able to do that because the Black church that he inherited from his father, the Black church gave him the platform for his political involvement and his civil rights activism. Let's not...
Well, he did the Harlem bus boycott in the 30s.
In the 30s, that's right, Reverend.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
In the 30s, not the 40s. In the 40s, he had gone on to the city council, first Black to be elected to the New York City Council, then went on to Congress, second Black in Congress. Bill Dawson in Chicago was the first. So it was the 30s that he shut down the buses in Harlem, boycotted, and got the first 2 Black bus drivers hired. They wouldn't hire a Black bus driver.
Yep.
Then they would not hire Blacks, Antoine, at the utility company here, Con Edison. And Powell led a thing of Black Tuesday, turn your lights off and don't use any electricity on Tuesdays, and then pay your light bill in pennies. And it was tying up all of the the pay exchange centers, and the heads of the utility called them down there and said, we hired some blacks, please tell these people to stop this. So this was 15 years before Montgomery.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Well, Rev, I can tell you what, the parallels between Adam Clayton Powell's day and today is this. We have our own version of Adam Clayton Powell waiting in the wings. That's Hakeem Jeffries. Hopefully will be the next black speaker of these United States and the first African-American serving that role. But two, the challenges of Adam Clayton Powell's day actually remain in our day. When you think about black folks having access to the ballot box, when you think about hiring practice, you think about health care, you think about education, you think about affordability, those things have still lingered from generation to generation. And so, and every time this country has been in a crisis, it's actually been black leaders who stepped up to the plate to answer the call. That's why if we do our part in these upcoming elections, we will elect a number of African Americans all across this country who can help mitigate and turn the table as it relates to the issues so that we don't have to continually generationally facing these issues.
But I think the thing that we keep in mind, and I'll go off the way I came on, is that Adam Clayton Powell's generation and before, had less to work with. They had no social media, had no cable TV, had no cell phones. Bingo. And they were able to break down the laws of segregation, the laws of Jim Crow. It was legal. We have all of these ways to communicate, all these ways to organize, everything we need. And we're not making laws, we're protecting laws. The Affordable Care Act is the law. Voting rights is the law. We don't even have it as hard as they did, and we have more to work with. And too lazy and ungrateful to get up and use what somebody fought to give us. There's no excuse. Whatever happens to us, it should happen if we don't fight back. Let me thank Antoine Seawright. Let me thank you, Reverend Bird, for sitting in with us. Let me thank all of you that called in, listened in. You that called in and couldn't get through but hung in there anyhow. Remember, whatever you do, wherever you go, however you feel, tell somebody, tell anybody, tell everybody. Reverend Al told you personally, keep it real, keep it real, keep it real. Talk to you tomorrow. It is really a intersection of both emotions, because when I was 11 or 12 years old, so I watched the news a lot, and I became enthralled with the image of Adam Clayton Powell. I was around 11, and I convinced my mother to let me come up to this church to see Adam Clayton Powell. And in those days, people in Brooklyn used to say it's dangerous to go to Harlem. And folk in Harlem used to say it's dangerous to go to Brooklyn. Now, to 135th Street, and I came, sat right back there, and Adam Clayton Powell walked down this platform. And I remember after the church, in those days, Johnson, the pastor's study was right inside with the plexiglass, and I knocked on the door and I told the secretary I wanted to meet Reverend Powell. She looked down this little 11-year-old boy. She said, really? She said, who should I say? I said, Reverend Al Sharpton.
Black power means dignity. Means we're gonna walk side by side with you, or through you. We're gonna be with dignity and integrity. We don't want any more than you have, and we're not gonna accept any less than you have. That's my fellow.